Welcome back to Fitness Manifesto. I am one of your hosts, Kim, and joining me is
Justin. Welcome to this new show that we've started, which focuses on life, awesomeness, friendship, and fitness as a whole.
First off, I do have to say welcome to our audience. Justin, how rude of you not to start with that.
Kim, shame on me. And first of all, Hello to you and hello to our audience.
How's it going?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, it feels really good because we've been kind of off sync in terms of recording and everything else. We're back to normal time. We're feeling great. And Kim, we have a fairly big announcement to make that we are going to be changing our drop time.
But pause.
Okay.
It's not all back to normal because you literally did not move. That was perfect. We are still in different locations. We're still doing remote.
Well, let's go through this here for a second. So poised to freaking crush it today. Excited in about 9:30ish, 9:50, something like that. I walk inside and my youngest son is sitting inside and I look over at him and he's watching something on TV and he's got Chick-fil-A and I'm going, darn it, he's sick. And so I'm not really sure what's wrong with him. I know that Kelly's taking him to the doctor later today, but it ruined our chance to record today in person, not to record, but in person.
Right. And I do also have to point out to our audience, for those that can't see us, we also synced shirts, not even on purpose. See?
We got a huge announcement for you guys. Kim and I discussed yesterday that we're going to actually be dropping our main episode on Wednesdays now.
Yep. We are going to switch it to Wednesday instead of Thursday.
Which I think is actually a great segue for what we're going to talk about today. Most people wait till New Year's, right? They wait till some sort of special time, some demarcation point to say, look, I'm going to do this now, as opposed to just taking the action and not waiting for a special time, but just doing it. I think that goes back to the fact, though, that most people find either goal setting or even changing, that kind of stuff, just an abomination and a pain in the butt.
Right, they do. But then also by people who make New Year's resolutions, whether it's changing your eating or getting into a workout, you do the opposite of what you're not going to be able to do for a while. And then once it comes up to, I got to give all this up and change all this, you're like, you're just setting yourself up for failure by setting a specific date. Just do it.
Yeah, and don't wait. And I think the point that you just made in terms of resolutions are interesting too, because one of the things that I talk with my clients outside of here in my personal life is that being so black and white actually sets you up for failure in terms of when you set goals and you set up a resolution, the idea of from here on out, I'm never going to do this again, without having a gray period of transition, almost always regresses back to the old habit or to the old belief or whatever it is, because you're not giving yourself a chance to succeed. You're basically just saying, I'm stopping here and I'm going to go this direction, but without really either defining your why clearly or setting a path to success. Right?
Honestly, you're going cold turkey from here on out. Right from the start, if you don't have the willpower to do it, which let's be honest, not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people can be like, I'm done, and then not go back. Most people are like, just a little bit, that'll be okay. That's not fully breaking it. And then the next day you're telling yourself, just a little more. By the end of it, you've lost your whole whatever goal you set for yourself.
I'm going to summarize a lyric from Guns N' Roses here. A little started with a little, and a little wouldn't do. So a little became a more, and the more is what I do. Mr. Brownstone, Guns N' Roses.
There you go. Yep. But I mean, it's true because people, they hype up for resolutions. By the time the resolution comes around, it really doesn't mean a lot to them. They didn't set their why they're doing it. And they didn't because they waited for New Year's. And if it really meant a lot to them, they would have done it a lot sooner.
So I agree with everything you're saying. The only piece I'd add to that is that I think it's also that they associate a loss with it, like a pain of some kind. The reason they put it off is because they, to your point about the why, they just don't want to do it anymore. It's so scary to them that they say, look, the 31st, I need a point in time that says I'm going to do this, rather than I'm going to start today and I'm going to incrementally get there.
You don't have to jump in head first. You don't have to be like, this is what I'm going to do, and then cut it all out. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Right? There's the failure already talking in your head. If you do it little by little and work up to that point, you'll be more successful.
I think also defining, because we keep talking about it, but really getting to the root of why you want this change. Like, what does it mean to you? Setting a goal in terms of, for instance, like for me, last year it was the London Marathon, and I went through all these weird emotional stages where I was like, I'm all in. October came around, then I was like, you know what? I don't want to really do this anymore. And I don't remember why. Like, it just changed. Like, I had a lot going on and things changed. And all of a sudden I realized November-ish that I was like, look, I've always wanted to do this. I need to go all in and do this the right way. I'm fully committed now. And it was going through that cycle of emotions and stuff rather than saying I'm going to do it and pushing through. I let my thoughts and my body go through this whole evolution of kind of things of, why am I doing this? Okay, I don't really want to do this now. Now I do. I went through that whole cycle and now I'm more psyched than ever.
Yeah. Well, and instead you decided to become a spin instructor.
Hey, we all make mistakes.
Hey, you can't say that was a mistake.
No, I'm just teasing. I loved it. And in fact, it was one of those things that I thought was really fun because we started last year becoming instructors and stuff like that. And for me, the goal was to prove to myself at mid 40s that I could do it and be good at it rather than saying by this date, I'm going to do it, everything else. It was more setting those broader goals of saying, look, I want to be able to do this in my 40s and I want to be successful at it. So it was a change of perspective and it made it much more enjoyable for me. And when I quit, I think it was September, it sucked, but it wasn't a hard thing because I achieved everything I wanted to.
Right. And it was October.
Thank you. See, Kim is always the scorekeeper.
I just had to fix you. But you went back to the way prior to that. When I was in the same boat, whenever I started riding a Peloton, all I wanted to do was become a spin instructor. I loved it that much. I got NASM spin certified, and then I became an instructor, and I loved everything about it. Even having MS and being able to push through it with my leg dropping out, I knew I could do it. And I did it. And then when I had to walk away from it, one day, maybe I'll teach again. But I don't know. I guess if the opportunity arises, we'll face it head on then.
Absolutely. And I think that it sounds like you're sounding a lot like me in the terms of you've achieved what you wanted to do. You proved it. You were great at it. You hit all your markers. So it's less about having to do it and more, like you said, if the right opportunity presented itself, you'll go for it as opposed to rushing into it. And I think that, when you think about resolutions or goals in general, if you rush into these things, like for instance, one of my favorite things that I deal with is people that lose weight for weddings. And Kelly made a great point the other day about this. And I thought this was really important here. It would be sad to look back in time and that was the best you ever looked. Because most people lose weight and then they get married and then they get overweight and then they look back and they say, oh, I wish I looked that good again. As opposed to using that as motivation to say, look, I'm going to get married. This is the way I want to be and change my life in a certain way, right, as opposed to just wanting to get pictures a certain way.
You got to look at it as it's not just a temporary thing. It's a lifestyle change is what you have to do. It's not just saying, hey, I want to be like this for a little bit. No, you have to change your whole lifestyle, especially if you do it, you hit that mark, and then you look back at the pictures and you're like, oh, it's a total lifestyle change. I mean, you have to work with it every single day. And do you have temptations? And honestly, do you fail? Sure. But it's how you pick yourself back up again and get back on track.
See, I've always struggled with that word fail in this regard. But I think as long as you're constantly learning and adjusting, you're not failing. You're pivoting, changing course. For instance, I've got a buddy of mine that in December, his son came up to him and they were doing some health class and he's in 4th grade, I think. We're doing this class and he came home and was like, Dad, I'm really concerned about your health because he's a little overweight, high blood pressure and everything. And immediately the next day he reached out, we started talking. He's like, hey, listen, I want to do some of the things that you do. I want to talk to you about this. And he has been, I think it's now 3 weeks, something like that, 4 weeks. He's dropped 15 pounds. He's feeling better. He's on track. He's really focused on how he's eating. They were in New Orleans this past weekend and he made different choices. Yeah, he made different choices than he normally would. And it wasn't like he gave up. He was thinking about it differently. And that is so awesome to watch that change because it wasn't one of these like, look, I'm getting married in 7 weeks. I got to lose the weight. It's I'm here for my kids. This is what I want to do and how I want to be perceived. I'm committed now.
It's a lifestyle change. It can't be temporary. It has to be, especially when it includes your health and your body, because you want to be around for those little moments like your friend does with his child. And if his child is the one coming to him saying, Dad, you need to lose some weight, there's concern there. So it's the choices. See, it's the choices that you make and those choices define you.
or the choices you don't make. Let's go back for a second here and talk about some of the decisions and kind of choices for this year, because I know that we've talked about not setting a resolution for the year in terms of I'm going to set a demarcation point and this is what's going forward. But for goals this year, what are a couple goals that you do have this year?
Well, I will tell you, I have switched all my eating, but it's not because I want to lose weight or anything. It's for my MS. I am doing more of an anti-inflammatory type eating, more of a Mediterranean style food. I've cut out all sugar. I've cut out all breads, processed foods, all of that, because it just inflames my body and it hurts. And I'll tell you, the cooking for some of that Mediterranean style food, it's a lot.
It's laborious.
It really is. What about you?
So, first of all, I really admire that. And I think that's so badass.
Awesome sauce.
Because one of the things that I think people don't appreciate enough is the impact diet can have on you.
Oh, it's huge.
One of my goals this year is ongoing, because one of the things that I've really wanted to do is get back traditionally into running, but doing it in a way that is holistic to me. So it's more of like a healing thing. It's not just to get out there to run, but it's to really enjoy it like I used to. And so what I've been doing since November actually is training for the London Marathon. But I decided, you know what, look, I have to commit to a few other things besides that. Like if I'm going to do this, I need to go all out. So I signed up for 2 additional, 1 half and 1 full before then to do it. And it's not to prove to myself that I can do it, because I know I can. It's more to remember why I'm doing this and to reinforce those so that when I go to London, I can enjoy it even more. So those are some major things I'm doing this year.
And I'm so excited for you. Tell us what your training's like.
The last time I ran a marathon, I think was 15 years ago, if I remember right. I trained very differently for that. I was in a very different state. So I was surfing all the time. I was in a very different physical place where it was just natural. I could just go run 10 miles. And nowadays, because I've been cycling and more well-rounded, my training is actually very different where I stagger it. So Mondays are usually my day off from working out of any kind. It's kind of my recovery day. Then Tuesday through Saturday, I do mixes of things. So Tuesday is a big run day. Thursday is a big run day. Sunday is a big run day. And I gradually progress. I start with 45 minutes on Tuesday. I do usually about an hour and a half on Thursday. And then I try to do up to 2 hours on Sunday. It's less about the distance for me. It's more about consistency. And I try to stay within my heart rate zone of basically 2 to 3. I really try not to hit 4 to just build up consistency and endurance. And then in between those times, I'm trying to do things like we took a class a couple weeks ago, like a Pilates class. So I'm trying to do a Pilates class once a week. And I'm trying to do a little bit more strength training and really focusing on core for 45 minutes or so in addition to that. So I'm really trying to do more of a balanced approach, because one thing that I didn't ever appreciate was the importance of having a strong core, because as a runner, I never thought about it. I was always in shape. Like it never occurred to me. And then all of a sudden I started having lower back pain. And I realized that if I just changed my core a little bit and moved my hips forward just slightly, it changes everything. Yeah. Incredibly so.
Rotate your pelvic.
But again, I guess for me, I'd heard it so much, Kim, but I never thought about it until I started having pain. I never thought about it. It changed my world. And so that's my training regimen now. And it's made a huge difference in terms of I'm enjoying running again. I feel like I'm naturally getting stronger and my endurance is improving without having to be so regimented like I used to be that it was unfun.
You set a goal for yourself. I think that is huge. You have a goal and now you're working towards that goal. You didn't say, well, I'm going to do this and then show up to run it and be like, without training or anything, you are building yourself up to that goal.
Absolutely. But it's the same thing with you. Like when you talk about the eating, what I think is going to make us both successful, especially in these two endeavors, is that your goal has a really strong why to it. You have a proven result, because I remember the first time you started doing this was, I think this week of Christmas or right before. It was somewhere in there you started changing. You were already feeling better. You were already, when we went to lunch last week, you were cognizant more of what you were eating and you were using your food for fuel as opposed to just eating to eat. You know what I mean?
Right.
All those things. It was so cool to watch in you. And like, even the way you talk about it now, you can tell you're going to be successful because you're excited about it. It's not like you gave something up. You've kind of found something new. Is that am I correct?
Nope. It makes perfect sense. And everybody's like, ew, really? You're going to eat a salad over this hamburger and these fries? Yeah. I am, because of how it makes me feel and how it makes my body feel and the energy that I get from it. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm liking the meals, even though I know me and you have discussed how long it takes and I don't even care, but I love it. Like even my lunch yesterday, it was chickpeas and I cut up, let's see, cucumbers and tomatoes and I think I put some red onion in there. Yeah, I just made like a little salad. I put a little bit of olive oil on it. I took a picture. I'll have to send it to you. Oh, and some hard-boiled eggs.
First of all, it sounds wonderful. For me, I don't miss it. I never sit down and say, man, I wish I had a burger. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I used to love burgers.
Right.
I found enough other things that, and my outlook on food has changed that I don't ever miss it. I don't crave it. I don't know. I don't know what to say. And I think you're already on that path.
I feel like when you change your palate and you change the way you're eating, then it changes everything. You don't want it and you don't crave it anymore because it's just not what you're wanting to eat, I guess. And I understand that because you've changed.
And I think that's part of what makes not only goal setting, but even if let's say you want to have a resolution of some kind, like you really want to commit and change, like you did, your eating habits, which to some people might be considered a resolution because you're changing everything. Not only do you have to be committed, but I think realizing that the process of it will result in a full scale change.
Yeah, it's a total lifestyle change. Well, and I think a lot of it, as you don't miss it, has a lot to do with you don't like how it makes you feel. You remember how you felt whenever you were eating that way, and you've changed that.
Absolutely. For anyone out there going through this sort of thing or debating if you want to do this or not, I think that not only going back to your why, finding all the comfort in it, but also understanding that, like Kim said, you're changing your lifestyle. So it is a big radical change rather than go in and just cut it cold turkey, incrementally work your way there. My recommendation is, like, if you want to get off red meat, if you eat it like 4 times a week, go to 3 times and then go to 2 and then go to 1, but don't just go off of it. Find a substitute for it because your body will say, okay, I'm giving something up. Well, don't give it up, replace it with something.
Right.
And that thing doesn't have to be another meat. If I had a vice in this world, I would eat sweet potatoes and carrots nonstop. That is one of the foods that I get salivating now thinking about. Like, I love sweet potatoes.
I love sweet potatoes.
Realizing that you'll find other things that'll fill those voids. So like if you're finding meat and you're trying to get off of that, find something that you enjoy as much, if not more, to substitute for that. And it doesn't have to be a vegetable. It can be a fruit. It can be another thing. It can be an exercise, like whatever it is, find something, but make sure you're not telling yourself you're giving something up. You're just substituting it.
Right. And if you say, I'm giving it up or I can't have this, you're going to want it more. I mean, let's be honest. Just like a little kid, you tell them no to something, right? That's sitting right in front of them. Don't touch that. They keep getting closer and closer. And you're like, don't you touch that. And in the end, they do, because you didn't move it. You didn't redirect them to something, but you said, no, you can't. Don't set yourself up from failure just right there by saying you can't.
Absolutely. The path to success is starting with a win, because I agree with it. I think that that's part of the problem too with a lot of people, especially because I think most people start heading back to the gym and they start talking about just things in general in terms of overall health. They treat it as like, oh, I'm going to give up. Like, I think what's January now, it's now referred to as like dry January or something. Like there's this whole
sobriety.
Yeah, like for January. And I'm like, well, if you can do it January, why not do it February? My brain doesn't work to the point where it says, I'm just going to give this up for a month. It's, well, just give it up. Like if obviously you don't need it, why taunt yourself and say it's just for a month? My last piece of advice here is just going to be a story about my wife really quickly here, because I told Kim this yesterday and I think that you guys can all relate to this. And it's especially when you're trying to get in shape. I find I hate being out of shape because it hurts. To get back in shape sucks. We all know it. It hurts, you're sore, you're run down. There's a million things that go on. So my advice to you is, when you're starting out going back in shape, start slow. Don't hit the gym every day, because you're going to get sore, you're going to get worn out, and you're going to self-demotivate because it's uncomfortable. Your body doesn't want discomfort. It wants comfort. So start slowly, because Kelly went back to one of her classes. I think it was Thursday, because it was Friday she was leaving. She walked like she was getting off a horse. And today we're recording, she's finally starting to not feel as sore. And that's a week she lost working out. You start small, start even, and not only will you get results quicker, it will last.
Right. Well, and a lot of times when people go in like that, they're like, nope, I don't like to feel like this. I don't want to feel like this again. I'm done. They give up.
Exactly. So, audience, if you've learned anything today, don't give up. Set goals that are achievable and start small with anything.
Yes.
Don't go cold turkey. Work your way into it to set yourself up for success. So, Kim, I got to tell you.
And no, they got to start today. They don't have to wait for something like New Year's. Don't make your goals so crazy, outrageously big that it's going to be hard for you to achieve.
Incrementally set them. When I hit this goal, then I'm going to set this goal. Because the other thing is set yourself up for success always. That is the number one thing I always preach. And Kim and I, it's one of our first things we bonded over was like, just set reasonable expectations, achieve them, and keep raising that bar, and you'll get so much further than you ever imagined.
Yep, it's true. It is absolutely 100% true.
And that concludes today's episode of the Fitness
Manifesto. I know you guys enjoyed it.
And Kim, I want to say thank you to you and to our audience for making this podcast what it is.
Yes, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
And stay tuned for the next episode.